Welcome comrades, and today I continue what is becoming an unintended series as I get more ideas on interesting what happened to's in 1984. In the past I've focused on two individuals, the Pope and Queen Elizabeth II, so check out those videos if you're interested. I suspect that many of you may have had a double take or WTF moment on seeing the title of this video. However, many regular viewers will know I'm not shy in delving into the more speculative side of things, and I wondered, given her cultural significance, just what likely became of Lady Liberty herself, one of the great icons of the conquered United States. So maybe many of you are scratching your heads and asking yourselves just how we can even intelligently speculate on this, and I say, sure we can. There is in fact enough law indications to make decent guesses about a number of possibilities for Lady Liberty. One obvious conclusion many will jump to is that she would simply have been destroyed. However, you may be surprised to learn that this is not certain by any means. Firstly, however, we should consider destroyed how, if this was indeed her fate. From my reading of the novel, there are three possibilities here. Firstly, she could have been destroyed during the Atomic War, in which case the party had no part in this, or likely had none. We also know that there was a civil war that saw the party seize power, and given the importance of the city of New York, it's possible she could have been collateral damage, or even destroyed deliberately in a campaign as a morale shock to the population or to the capitalists. Finally, we know the party won the Civil War, as the world is as it is, so she may have been demolished soon after the party consolidated power in the city. The decision could have been made for the simple reason that she may have been viewed as too great and permanent a reminder of the capitalist past for American proles. We do know from the law that the proles are not fully expected to buy into party orthodoxy and mental control. Doublethink is not a thing for the masses, and so in the initial years before the purges, and even long after these, I suspect general knowledge of the statue would have been universal, what she was, where she came from, and what she symbolised. It's very easy to imagine the party battering Liberty Island with rocket bombs, or even having a huge rally to witness a cleaner demolition of the structure. Perhaps, in a more fan-fiction-y addition from me, a similar scale statue of BB raising a defiant fist in the direction of Eurasia across the ocean took her place on Liberty Island. Given her fame then, and the otherwise forlorn hope of extinguishing her links to the capitalist past for the few remaining patriotic or curious proles, how then would she endure after the party's takeover? Well, we know from the law that New York exists, or at least some of it does, as during the 1960s, the party function involving Jones, Aronson and Rutherford was held there. Of course, this doesn't guarantee Lady Liberty's existence. However, at least we know New York was not destroyed or rendered uninhabitable in either the Atomic or Civil War. I think New York is very likely an important city in Oceania, as it was in the pre-party world. I think this for several reasons. Firstly, as it was an economic centre and the largest city of the former United States. It also has political significance. Interestingly, I don't think Washington is mentioned in the book, which may indicate New York perhaps trumped it as a party centre or simply survived when Washington didn't. A final reason I think New York is very important is its similar status to London. Both are titanic cities and the major urban areas of both the main powers that originally merged to form Oceania. London, we know from the book, is still London, and the ministry buildings dominate its skyline, showing its importance. Also, while New York is not the political capital of the US, it was and is the largest urban area. While I can't prove this, I suspect that New York may have been an early party city, given we know how popular socialist and left-wing movements can get in larger urban areas. Unlike the much smaller Washington then, much of New York's population may have survived the Atomic War and rallied behind the party in the Civil War. Of course, this is very much speculation on my part. Significantly too, in a sign of hope for Lady Liberty, many structures in ancient London endure too into the novel, We know several churches exist. We know that one has even been repurposed, which is an important example of how the party may preserve structures even if they're symbols of a forbidden past. My key point of law support for the idea that the party may have let Lady Liberty be comes from Part 2, Chapter 1. This is where things get going with Winston and Julia, and as we shall see in the following quote, the party is not above keeping famous statues from a province's history. Quote, Winston was in Victory Square before the appointed time. He wandered round the base of the enormous fluted column, at the top of which Big Brother's statue gazed southward towards the skies where he had vanquished the Eurasian aeroplanes, the East Asian aeroplanes it had been a few years ago, in the Battle of Airstrip 1. In the street in front of it, there was a statue of a man on horseback, which was supposed to represent Oliver Cromwell. So intriguingly, a statue of the 17th century Lord Protector of the Commonwealth of England, Scotland and Ireland still exists, proudly astride his steed for all to see. As I speculated in a previous video, I believe that history is very much valued by the party when it aligns with their interests. We know from the children's history book that Winston borrows from Mrs. Parsons that the king is maligned as the chief of the capitalists, and so the institution of the monarchy was anathema to the party. Cromwell, as the famous regicide, or at least one of them anyway, was not, it seems, wholly extinguished from public memory. This opens up the cool possibility that other historical figures are also repurposed too for party use, which is something that we can perhaps look into further another time. The point at present is that Cromwell's statue exists, and has, as with many things in London, been claimed by the party. Indeed, this in itself is not unusual in the law, as Winston thinks to himself in the novel. Quote, anything large and impressive, if it was reasonably new in appearance, was automatically claimed as having been built since the Revolution, while anything that was obviously of earlier date was ascribed to some dim period called the Middle Ages. The centuries of capitalism were held to have produced nothing of any value. This quote is interesting for us as it gives us a tantalizing fork in the road. Given the end of the quote, you would think that the Statue of Liberty would be high on the party's list as structures deemed combustible, as it was a great symbol of the capitalist past, and was therefore of no value, merely a symbol of capitalist oppression and power. Another take is that the party, as with Cromwell's statue, simply claimed her. America is a new country, and Lady Liberty doesn't look a day over 100 for 1984. Given she was built between 1875 and 1884, she could certainly qualify as reasonably new. Just how the party spins the story claiming her design is anybody's guess. It's not impossible, I suppose, even if it would be totally absurd to older proles. Perhaps a revered pre-party figure or leftist is inserted into its history, the capitalists framed as somehow stealing the design or something like that. It's a bit crazy, I know, but this is the party we're talking about here, and if O'Brien can assert that he could float off the ground like a soap bubble if the party wished it, I'm sure that claiming the Statue of Liberty for the party somehow is child's play. Another possibility is that she is simply claimed for what she is, and is a prize of war. Perhaps the party revel in using her in propaganda, draping her in ingsoc flags and paraphernalia at the New York Hate. What greater visual to show the party's dominance and ultimate victory over capitalism than to lord it over their long-dead foes by keeping her standing, and as a centerpiece in her ceremonies and rallies. Perhaps she may have even been rechristened as Lady Victory, a symbol of the party's triumph over the capitalists in Eurasia, or was it East Asia? In any case, what do you all think? Was Lady Liberty no more once the party came to power? Or was she long gone beforehand, a prominent victim of the atomic war? Or perhaps, most darkly of all, was she a maligned trophy of the party, Lady Victory, who guards the coast from the bombs of Eurasia? Tell us all your thoughts and objections as always in the comments section below, and remember, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength.